Hi, boys and girls. My name is Terry. I wrote a book called Grandpa's Chair. My wife Sandy was the illustrator. I'll go ahead and read that for you now. This is a picture of my great grandpa sitting in his favorite chair. His chair is old with a few holes in it, but it is the most comfortable chair in the whole world. Mom put it in the living room so Grandpa could look out the window or watch television. But Grandpa used the chair mainly for reading. He loved to read, especially from our big family Bible. I love to listen to Grandpa read the story about David and Goliath. Grandpa's chair was the best place to listen to stories. When I was only 2 years old, Grandpa would pull me up on his lap and we'd read together. He never seemed to get tired. We would talk about the pictures, and Grandpa would tell me about far-off places, even though I really didn't understand it all. Even when Grandpa wasn't at home, his chair was special to me. It was a safe place. Sometimes I'd curl up on its soft cushion and take naps, or I'd play make-believe. I'd dream of being a fireman rescuing people from burning buildings. Sometimes I would dream that I worked for the railroad where Grandpa used to work. Grandpa's chair was the best place for fun. Grandpa and I would play together on his chair for hours. I'd climb up his leg and then slide down again. Sometimes he would grab me and hug me real tight while he tickled my tummy. Other times I would hide behind his chair and try and scare him. But Grandpa always knew I was there, and he would catch me when I jumped out at him. When I was 5 years old, I went to kindergarten. I liked school all right, but each day I could hardly wait to go home and see Grandpa watching me from the window. He would smile and wave when I started running up the driveway. When I got to the door, he would meet me and give me a great big hug and say, "Tell me about your day." Then we'd go over to his chair and talk. If I'd hurt myself, he'd make it all better with more hugs and kisses. Grandpa was really funny. He refused to wear his false teeth most of the time. I'm not sure why, but he could still eat just about anything, although he did have trouble with corn on the cob. He would take his knife and cut the corn off the cob so he could eat it. Another funny thing about Grandpa was that he always wore long underwear. Always. It could be very hot in the middle of the summer, and Grandpa would have them on. One day when I was 6 years old, Mom said, "Grandpa, there's a surprise in the living room for you." I ran ahead of Grandpa and spotted the surprise. It was a new chair. Grandpa came in and looked at the chair. I could tell that he didn't really want it, but because he was polite, he said thank you and sat down. After about 2 days in that new chair, Grandpa knew that he wanted his old chair back. The new one just didn't feel right. Mom said she understood, so she moved the new chair into the family room and brought Grandpa's chair back from the garage. Grandpa had a big smile on his face all that day. Grandpa likes his old chair best, I thought. Once when I was 7 years old, Grandpa and I went to the store. I bought some red-hot Fireball candies. I gave one to Grandpa. From that day on, he had to have his Fireballs, except he couldn't remember the name. He'd call them Pebbles. Yep, he'd say, "I've got to get some more Pebbles today, I'm all out." As the years went by, Grandpa seemed to sleep a lot more. Sometimes when I came home from school, he would be asleep in his chair. Mom said he wasn't feeling very well and that I shouldn't pester him so much. But Grandpa always told me I was no bother. Grandpa still loved to read to me, but now we read more grown-up books like Hardy Boys stories or Kon-Tiki. "Aren't you lucky to have such a special grandpa?" my mom often said, but of course, I knew that already. Besides being tired a lot, Grandpa also started doing some rather strange things. One morning he woke up and packed a small bag. My mom asked him, "Where do you think you're going, Grandpa?" With a serious look on his face, he replied, "I'm going to join up with the wagon train." One Saturday afternoon I had a baseball game. We won 7-5. I got 3 hits. I couldn't wait to tell Grandpa. But when I got home, no one was there. Grandpa's chair was empty. A note on the door said, "Go to Mrs. Sanchez's house and wait for Mom to call." I ran across the street and Mrs. Sanchez saw me coming. She smiled and opened the door to me and let me in. But the smile disappeared quickly. I knew something was wrong. And I never forgot those next words. Billy, your grandpa is really sick. He's in the hospital. I was hurt and scared. Why? I yelled at Mrs. Sanchez. Why? She just looked at me and gave me a big hug. Later that night, Mom came home and took me to the hospital. We went into the grandpa's room. His eyes met mine and he smiled weakly. I held his hand and told him about my game that day. Grandpa put his hand on my head and messed up my hair. He couldn't talk, but I knew he was thinking about our special times in his chair. Mom and I stayed as long as we could, but finally we had to leave. Somehow I knew that would be the last time I would see my grandpa. Grandpa died in his sleep that night. Mom and I cried for a long time the next day. I sat in Grandpa's chair and remembered all the great times we had there. Mom came over to me and said, Billy, you know what? Grandpa now has an even better chair. He's having a great time in heaven with Grandma. That made me feel much better. Even though Grandpa loved Mom and me very much, I knew he really missed Grandma. Now I'm 10 years old, and Mom said that Grandpa's chair will have to go. But Mom, you can't throw away Grandpa's chair. That was his favorite place and mine too. Mom thought for a while. Well, I think I know what the best thing to do is. Grandpa's chair is in my room now. I sit in it a lot and think about him. And then I thank God for giving me such a special grandpa.